Hi everyone, this is the LEGO Ninjago Dragons Rising Land Bounty Set for summer 2026. I got this for 90 euros. Usual price is 130 euros or $180 Canadian, 130 US dollars as well. It's a pretty interesting set with a very interesting minifigure lineup, including one very exclusive minifigure for now. And although this set releases in August in North America, I was able to get it early thanks to an online retailer. Here's a look at the top of the box with the minifigures in action. It's pretty cool. You have Nya on the side of the box for some reason. Maybe that's some foreshadowing. The box is a little bit damaged from transport, but just ignore that. And here's a look at the back of the box where we see that the set can split into 3 different components: a motorcycle, a pretty big car, as well as a bounty, without the big sails though, so those you're gonna have to add separately. With that being said, let's open the box and see what's inside. So this is one of those sets where we have to cut the tapes all around and then flip, lift. We're getting paper bags with this one, numbered from 1 to 9, and to help not mix 6 and 9, we do have the underlines here, which are quite useful. We also got 6 of these very big tires. They're very big, very easy to squish. Alongside that, we have the only plastic bag of the set, which is unnumbered and which contains the inserts, the wheels that go with these tires, done in pearl gold. And we also got this envelope right here. So what do we have here? 3 instruction manuals, with each one showing you what the build is going to be about. So I do like this. I think this makes sense to tell you basically bags 1 to 3, they build this. Bag 4 builds this. And the remaining bags build this. And also we see which minifigure is included where. That just makes a lot of sense to me. Here's a closer look at the sticker sheet. Quite an interesting thing to see. Land Bounty written in English. Usually they use Ninjago for these things. I believe this is Ninjago as well, and maybe this also. But perhaps there's a reason why this is written in English. Maybe that's what they use in the Never Realm. I'm not 100% sure about that. Maybe some of these stickers can be considered optional, and I'll think about whether or not to apply them when I get to each one. With that being said, I'm going to start the build with bag 1, of course without using the instructions. Or I will be using a brick separator to apply the stickers. Bag 1 gives us the Zane and Fire Monster minifigures and starts to build the chassis of the car. Bag 2 builds the front of the car as well as the steering mechanism, which uses a lot of LEGO Technic. So does Bag 1, also using lots of LEGO Technic, maybe a bit too much. Bag 3 finishes the car and gives us a miniaturized version of Mr. Frohickey, or maybe just another generic frog, as well as this cupcake. I'm wondering if it's going to be relevant in the show. Here's the car fully built, and now we'll move on to the next phase, which is building the motorcycle. And it's in this remaining building phase that we'll use the remaining 2 tires and wheels. Bag 4 gives us the Nya and Acid Monster minifigures and builds the bike part of the set. Nya 5 builds the first part of the ship and gives us the Jay minifigure. I like how they gave us Jay right after Nya. That makes a lot of sense. I just want to point out this upside down building technique. All the studs here are pointing down this way, and I'm going to use this clip connection to clip to these bars on either side to reverse the stud direction. It's a genius level build. Very interesting choice by the designer right here. And it reminds me of my own awesome space tower where I used similar transparent pieces upside down in this kind of way. Bag 6 builds the cockpit of the flying part of the bounty, and a lot of it is built using upside down techniques. It's a very interesting way this came together in the end. Very, very beautiful, very thought-provoking. I really enjoyed this particular building phase. And we have a little bit of interior as well, but most of it was focused on the exterior. 6-7! Bag 7 mainly builds the front of the ship, but also adds some of this technic mechanism at the back. Bag 8 gives us the complete Lloyd minifigure with the claws and all the dragon pieces, and in this bag we also build the Dropship Mechanism. Lots of LEGO Technic here, pretty interesting build. Bag 9 builds the thrusters, the main deck, and this sign or flag right here. And with that, we are done with the build. These are all the normal extra parts that we got in this set. These are the parts that I should have used but did not, just these plates. These are extra tiles for the tile shooters. And here are the minifigure accessories, in addition to the minifigures themselves. Let's take a closer look at them. So actually, let's start with the villains. So here we have the acid monster as well as the fire monster. And both of these are nice to get. We have seen the acid monster before in many other sets, but the fire monster is exclusive to only this set, which is very disappointing for people who can't afford this big and very expensive set. So I do like the printing here on the front of the acid monster. The green here is not a perfect match for the green of the torso, but it's definitely close enough. I do love the transparent head with the bright green and purple, making a very nice combination, especially when the light hits it just right. You cannot say the exact same for the fire monster. I do like the transparent orange, but here there's supposed to be a transparent eye. You barely see that effect. And I'll try to move it just to see if the light has to hit it at just the right angle. And yeah, you can barely see it just when you move it exactly right. So overall, this is too dark. And this is in contrast to the ice monster right here, which comes in another set. So the molds are the same, and they do look quite nice, to be honest. I just like the ice monster a lot more. I do like, in theory, the colors of black and orange, but I just think the execution here did not work as well as the ice monster. And here the arms are transparent, and here they're not. And while I have both of them here, here's a better look at the printing on the torsos without being obscured by the big head pieces. I do like the patterns here. In fact, I might like the printing on the fire monster a bit more. Of course, both are very good. And I could even see the ninja reusing these pieces. So this one would be for Zane, this one would be for Cole, interestingly enough. Even though it's a fire monster, it just fits Cole's color scheme a bit better. So you could repurpose this for Cole if you really want to. And here's what that would look like. The Zane headpiece and hairpiece are included in the set, but the Cole is sold separately. It is relatively easy to get, being available in many other sets. So you could repurpose these as unofficial ninja suits if you want. So overall, the villains are okay. I'd say this one could be improved just a little bit, but it's still nice to get. I wish that this was not exclusive to the set. If you're going to make it exclusive, give us like 2 or 3 of them, so that we can army build and so that people who buy the set and part it out can sell them for cheaper online. As for the Ninja, we get the depowered Nya and Jay minifigures. So unfortunately, we do not get the dragon wings, nor the tail, nor the claws, nor the helmets. We do get the torso and legs with the dragon form. We also get this relatively new piece for summer 2026 to hold the sword in place. This is very, very nice to get. I appreciate getting this piece for Nya. We do have 1 extra of this in the set that you can give to Jay or one of the other ninjas. I think that the color scheme matches Nya the best with her red belt, which is a reference all the way back to her early days of Samurai X in Masters of Spinjitzu Season 1. That takes us back 15 years ago. And here's a look at them with everything removed, so you can see the printing at the front of the torsos in full, as well as on the back. So interesting expressions for Jay and Nya. We've seen this face for Nya for quite a few years now, but the face for Jay is new for this year. We've seen it in the January wave, but it's nice to see it again in the summer wave. And it is true that at some point in Season 3 and Season 4 of Dragon's Rising, Jay has some long hair, and I'm trying to see if it works to give him the Nya hair. I think from far away, like if I just take this literally and make him like appear in a distance, it kind of works if you look at the silhouette. Yeah, that's Jay with long hair. But once you bring him up close, it's clear that he's just wearing Nya's hairpiece, so it's less convincing when you look at it from a closer distance. But yeah, that's the only way we can give Jay long hair right now, because the Okino piece is out of production, and you can get it online if you want, but it's not the perfect color. So Jay is going to have to just be with his short hair, so hopefully he gets his haircut very soon in the show. Because we're not going to get the long-haired Jay officially in the sets, at least not this year from what it looks like. Finally, you have the Dragon Lloyd as well as Zane, and this is the only place where you can get Dragon Lloyd with the claws, so this is the complete form of the Green Ninja minifigure for this year, when he has reached his 2nd true potential, not the golden one, but the green one. I do like this shaping, I like this minifigure, I like the wings. It is an interesting choice that they went for the yellow green or the lime green instead of the standard green, but I think it does work in the end. You see it in the helmet and the wings, they kind of match the helmet, so in the end it just does work, although it's not completely faithful or accurate to the show. I do like the claws as well. The only thing I don't like is that we did not get more dragon minifigures in a very expensive set like this one. This is one of the most expensive sets of the year for Ninjago. They should have given us at least 2 or 3 of these dragon minifigures. Even in the January wave, when we got the Dragon of Life set, we got Dragon Lloyd as well as Dragon Cole, 2 Dragon Ninja in the same set. So they should have done that at the very minimum in this set right here. And this set actually costs more than that set, so I'm wondering why they did not do that. So that's a bit unfortunate. And here's what Lloyd looks like with all these stuff taken off. There's not that much printing here that would be covered by the claws, so that actually works quite nicely. The facial expression, only this one makes sense with the helmet. The other one, just him with a standard frown, does not make sense with the helmet, and just to see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not really convincing because he's like a dragon except in his eyes where he looks like Lloyd, so it looks like he's in costume if you do it this way. But I guess they're reusing this piece and they don't want to make a new piece that's just this, because I would prefer to have this expression plus this same expression but with him smiling. Because right now he's frowning here and here, so not really the best mood for Lloyd, but it is a difficult season for him after all. And we did get the smiling Lloyd in other sets this year, so overall if you want a smiling Lloyd, you can get him from other places. So overall the minifigure selection here is good, and I wish it was great instead. And to make it great, we needed more Dragon Claws, more Dragon Form Ninja, and also, where's Kai? This is a big red vehicle set, but there's no red ninja, neither Kai nor Wildfire. There's the Fire Monster as well, no Fire Ninja. It's a very curious omission. They really should have included Kai, even in the depowered form, even in the standard form that he usually has for these kind of things. So this is the Kai that I'm talking about, and here he's from another set, actually cheaper set. And here he has the shoulder pads, and the ninja in the more expensive set do not have the shoulder pads. That also does not make sense to me. So a bunch of questionable decisions that were made in the minifigure department, especially when it comes to existing pieces. Like this piece exists, these claws, now they exist. So why not give them to us in the big expensive set? If it was a $10, $20 set, I would say, okay, I have budget limitations, but this set costs $180 Canadian, which is a lot of money for just these ninja. And yeah, I would like to see more female representation instead of just one female ninja, maybe a female villain like Dr. Leroux or something. Also, 0 of these minifigures have side printing, and 0 of them have dual molded arms or legs. I think that number could improve, and I predict that it will improve in the future. And here is that big red vehicle. So this is the Land Bounty. And even if you don't know what this is, this sticker right here is going to tell you. So it is a formidable model, a large model. I've placed some minifigures all around just so you get an idea for the size and scale. Let's just take Zane right here and put him at the front. You see that the wheels and tires are larger than the minifigure himself. So it is a pretty sizable model. It's a large model. It will rival the size of some modular buildings even. Although, to be fair, many of them are taller than this, but just in terms of the general footprint. So yeah, this thing will take up a lot of space on your Lego shelf or in your Lego city. It's a pretty big beast. So before we look at all the details of the set, let's just spin it around just to get the general understanding of it. So interesting enough, this is the front, but this is also the front, depending on your perspective. This is the front from the car perspective, the perspective of the car or truck at the bottom. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to see here, and we'll look at the individual details in a moment, but yeah, this is one front, the front of the car, the back of the ship. And we keep spinning this thing around. It's almost mirrored, so what you see on the left and right is almost identical, with one difference being this being red on the other side, kind of reminiscent of real-life airplanes. Interesting why they made that choice in a fantasy Ninjago set, but nevertheless. And here is the back of the truck, the front of the ship above it. So it's interesting how you're always looking at the front of the model no matter which side you look. I think it was an interesting design choice compared to the previous version of this model from 2019. So yeah, quite an interesting look from all around. If you look at it from the top, and be careful when moving this around because it could fall apart and we'll have to reconstruct it. So yeah, we see here lots of space available on the ship for posing minifigures and so on. Even this very large minifigure right here, the Acid Monster. And from the underside, I'll show you that when I take apart the ship into its various components. So actually I'll do that right now. This is so cool. This is maybe the coolest part of the set. You just pull this thing and the wing will expand. And actually, let's look at this from a different angle. Once again, just pull this. You see that? This is magical. This is amazing. And when it's pulled like this, the ship can fly away. We'll get back to the ship in a moment. But here is the truck, as I like to call it. The truck is a 6-wheeled vehicle with room for just one driver, unfortunately, and maybe you could fit a second driver there if you do some minor modifications. But nevertheless, here is the truck. Looking at it from the top, you see that the wheels and tires take up a large part of it. Very unusually for Ninjago, we have a steering mechanism. It's very, very rare that we have vehicles that can be steered in Ninjago, so that's very, very nice to see. Here's the place where the ship is going to be attached. So these are not just decorative, but they're actually functional to let you know you have to place the ship right here. And it's going to be attached to this Technic lift arm right here. And at the rear of the truck, there's going to be a surprise that you might already know about, but let's just take a look at the truck first. Doesn't look too good from the back, but there's a good reason for that. Here's the underside of the model as promised. Again, not too much to see here. You do see a bit of LEGO Technic used to construct the various parts, and you see a bit better how the steering mechanism works. Now, the gimmick of the set, which is actually a useful gimmick in this case, is that you can remove the back part of the truck, and this becomes a motorcycle. So this is its own vehicle. Doesn't look too good from this side with the blue Technic axles and pins. Looks much better this way. But yeah, you can fit one minifigure right here to drive the motorbike. So essentially you have 3 vehicles in the set. That's why it's called 3-in-1 on the box. So again, you have the car, you have the motorbike, and you have the big ship, which does not separate further into smaller components, at least not with the default instructions and model that you would have to follow. So for the bike, the only ninja that can pilot this is the Lloyd, because he's the only ninja here with a helmet. So none of the other minifigures have helmets included. Of course, to put him in here, you have to remove the tail. Does he fit here with the wings? No, so you have to remove those as well. You can keep the claws if you want. So that's what that looks like. The Lloyd on his bike. The color scheme doesn't really match him. Like if this was green or something, I think it would have looked better, or just gold and black, so that it could be used by any of the ninja. This screams like a Kai vehicle to me. Kai is the guy who likes red in his vehicles, but they did not include Kai in the set. Since I do have Kai as a minifigure, just borrow him from another set temporarily, just so you see what that looks like with Kai being there. And I'm not sure if it's the designer who decides which minifigure goes into the sets, or do they just design the build and then someone else decides, like, I'm going to put Kai in this set, Lloyd in this other set. Yeah, with Kai in there, it looks so much better, but again, Kai is not included with this set for some strange reason. But LEGO is probably assuming that if you can afford this big $180 set, you can spend $10, $20 more to get this Kai, and then put the Kai in here. Yeah, as it stands now, here's what the Lloyd looks like in there. It's a okay build, I guess. This part is fine. I like it from this side, but then from this side, it doesn't look too good, to be honest. And like, even if we ignore the blue pins, which is pretty hard to ignore, but there's still like lots of Technic, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, just random pieces put together, it doesn't feel too good. But at the same time, I know it's difficult to design a mechanism that is functional and also looks good. And because this thing can be folded this way to add it to the car to make the truck, I can somewhat forgive the lack of aesthetics in this department. And this is not, I think, the most important part of the set. So I'm okay with it. Now, how many of these ninja can you fit on this car? So let's see. Well, we could put one of the ninja right here. Like if they're just riding here, I suppose they don't need a helmet, strictly speaking, although of course one is preferred. So you could put Zane right here. Let's just look at this from the other side. Now there is a first aid kit available in this truck, as well as this box. And this box contains, what do we have here? A frog as well as a cupcake. I'm not sure if the frog is a representation of Mr. Frolicky or if it's just a regular frog. Maybe it has some plot significance to the second part of Season 4 of Dragons Rising. Although I've heard someone make this comment online, I forgot who it was saying that LEGO sets increasingly have less and less plot relevance as time goes on, which I do find to be a bit unfortunate, but nevertheless, you can remove the first aid kit. Maybe someone is going to need first aid in the Never Realm, which has been renamed to something else now. So instead of the Never Realm, it's now the Never Kingdoms, according to LEGO.com set descriptions. Oh, and by the way, when inserting the motorcycle, make sure to insert the axle. I accidentally did not insert it correctly, but this is a nice look for the old land bounty, where you could steer the front tires, both of them at the same time, using a steering mechanism instead of just these 2 tires. That was a really awesome mechanism that unfortunately did not make its way to this model. But because this model is separable and you can have like the motorbike be separate, I understand why having like the dual steering was not going to be possible here. And also I know like they're not going to want to recycle a model and make it too close to the original, especially since it's not even a legacy set. But yeah, more on the comparison with this and the original at the end of the video. But for now, let's just fit the minifigures here. So I can take away the sword, and I can fit one minifigure here, probably. Yeah, the sword thing gets in the way, but you could probably sit on the other side. Like so. Yeah, so this, yeah, move the sword a bit forward. You do have to do some gymnastics to fit minifigures on this car, which is a bit unfortunate. If you want to fit another minifigure here, you're going to have to take either one of the villains, or let's just take Zane and fit him here. Yeah, so it doesn't fit as many people as I would have liked. Maybe you could fit one more person back here. Let's see, the Lloyd with the dragon stuff will not fit. If you take all that stuff off, then I think it will, but I'm just going to reuse Zane again since he has the least amount of parts. So you can make him stand or sit in this area right here. So yeah, the car does fit more than one minifigure, more than just the driver, if you put people around. And maybe you can modify this front section. I'll just remove this to illustrate better. If you move some of these pieces around, you will be able to sneak in a second minifigure, so it will be quite a tight fit. But this is in comparison to the LEGO City Taxi, where you could fit 2 or 3 people in here in a much, much smaller size, just because they were more efficient with the build. So I really wish that the LEGO Ninjago designers considered that when designing this set. They should have included a bit more space here for a second minifigure sitting side by side with the driver, Yeah, you have to move a few pieces around, but I still think they could do that within budget without making the set cost way more. Just a question of moving some pieces around to make this more convenient for having multiple minifigures, because it just doesn't make sense to have a vehicle of this size that only carries one person. And while we're on the topic of these vehicles, well, we can separate them once again and compare them with a much cheaper version of a car plus motorbike set that was released at the same time. So this is the LEGO Ninjago Dragons Rising Kai and Cole Combiner vehicles, which I've already built and reviewed. You might not have seen the review yet, because I don't know in what order these are going to be published. It depends on how people voted for which set should I build first. But I'm just filming everything in advance because I don't know how the vote is going to go. But here we see the car versus car. Suppose this is the front versus the front. And here's the motorbike, and here you can change it into this form, where the front is pointing this way for both of them. I do think the smaller, cheaper set offers better aesthetics, and perhaps somewhat better playability. It all depends on what you want to do with it, though. So this one has steering, which I really, really like. This one does not. But with this one, you can separate the two back halves of the different vehicles. So essentially, you pull this apart, and you pull this apart. It's a bit more difficult to do on this side. And you can combine this with this, and also this with this. And I'll let you form your own opinion on this. I'll share my thoughts in the dedicated video on that. But yeah, you can have playability between these two parts of this set. And here you can combine them together to create one large truck. So it depends on which of these you prefer to do. Here's a look from the air, just to understand the footprint perspective. I think this and this have similar footprints, even though the wheels and tires here are much larger. This car is significantly smaller than this one, but they both have space for just one driver each. So it's kind of annoying to me how Ninjago can make massive vehicles, but still only room for one driver. And I hope that LEGO improves on that in the future. They did release one car in January, the Jay transforming car that allowed two minifigures to sit right next to each other, if I recall correctly. But other than that, I don't recall any Ninjago vehicles where you can have multiple people sitting side by side. And I really wish that they could have done that here in this car. So I'd say if you only care about having a car and a bike, get the cheaper set. It's much cheaper everywhere in the world, even though this is overpriced in North America. But still, if you just care about this, I think this would be more aesthetic. You just don't get the giant wheels. I think they're not necessary if you just want a bike and car. But if you want the ship, well, then you're going to want the Land Bounty. This is a beautiful ship, even though I think it's somewhat unfinished, and I'll share more of my thoughts on that in a moment. But yeah, it's a very interesting design. I like the front part of it, with the upside down construction right here. Very curvy, very swoopy, and the part here is transparent, which is very interesting to see. I do like most of what I see right here, with the exception being this blue pin, which stands out like a sore thumb. I really wish that LEGO would have covered that up or just changed its color. I like all the stuff that I see here with the thrusters, and especially with the mechanism, and the fact that we can do this. This is just so much fun. All right, looks amazing. And I hope it's going to be accurate to what we see in the show, but this is just awesome. Just look at that. Isn't that nice? So yeah, for sets that have complicated mechanisms and gears and things like that, I actually learned a lot when building this set without the instructions. Lots of the building experience, and I'll talk about that more at the end, but there were lots of good moments in each bag, and lots of things I was not expecting, even towards the end. So this was one of those things I was totally not expecting, and it was a lot of fun to put together at the very end of the build. So yeah, again, we look at the ship from the rear. Lots of interesting shapes here. Some of the blue pins don't really make that much sense. The ones here don't bother me as much because they're close to these transparent blue pieces. The ones here, I really wish they could have been avoided. Here's what it looks like from the underside. Doesn't look too good, but just to show you the mechanism again from this side. When we pull here, we're basically pulling this axle, and then that lift arm from the truck or car is going to go through here, and we lock it in place by pushing this in. So in reality, it's a simple mechanism. The complexity really comes from moving the wings around, just to make this go up, and to make these go out. So definitely a lot of work, a lot of thought, a lot of design went into this, and I respect that. And the result is very phenomenal. I think people are going to remember this set many years from now for having the fire monster, and if it remains exclusive to this set, it will be remembered for that. But they're also going to remember this mechanism. This mechanism is something that you're not going to forget easily, especially if you build it and you play with it in real life. Definitely something to behold. And to their credit, you can fit all the included minifigures on the deck, including this acid monster with a very big tail, and the dragon Lloyd, who also has a tail. They all fit on the top, and yes, you could in theory put people down here, but I know kids when they're playing with stuff, they usually want to see the minifigures, so that just makes a lot of sense. And you're going to imagine that the car crashed or whatever, you don't want to use it, you just want to use the ship. Everyone fits on the top. It just makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, it's a pretty good look right there. I like the red, the gold, the brown, it just makes sense. I just wish this blue was not there. And yeah, the green here is understandable because it's part of a standard for ships and other vehicles to have red on the left, green on the right. If you don't like it, you can actually change this for the red, because we do have an extra piece of this, at least one extra piece, probably more than that for the tile shooters, so you could just put a red piece here if you prefer that. I don't mind the green here because it has a meaning, it has an explanation associated with it. Just this blue here, I think, is completely unjustified. All the decorations that you see here are stickers, so this is sticker, 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 sticker. It's all stickers. The only printed piece, well, we do have this remote control right here for this turret that can be moved up and down. We have a printed piece for the compass as well as for the clock. Everything else here is stickers. So that is a bit disappointing to see, especially for a set of this price. And the other thing that I think is missing from this version of the Land Bounty is a big sail. It's kind of like you have a ship, but that sail, that middle part that takes up a lot of visual space, is missing. So that's something I think was sorely needed here. They should have done at least something. It doesn't have to be very big or perfect, but just something to represent the idea of a sail. And just to explain what I mean, here's the Going Merry pirate ship from the One Piece theme. This is a set that was released last year. Has a bunch of very nice minifigures, and is the same price or cheaper than the Land Bounty, depending on where exactly you are in the world. But definitely interesting to see that this is a much bigger ship, both in terms of the width, the height, and also the sails. And also this is licensed, this is not licensed. Although you do get the truck with the Land Bounty, and here it's just this ship and minifigures. But I was thinking if this set had some type of sail like this, I'm thinking more of this style, it would have added so much to the value. And actually let me see if I can borrow this sail right here. This is a very quick copy paste. I did not do a lot of work besides removing like this pirate flag. It doesn't really make sense right here, unless you can tell a story for it. But essentially, I feel like this adds so much more visual presence. The color is not an exact match because you have dark red instead of regular red and tan instead of dark tan. So yes, I know the colors are not a perfect match, but just the idea overall, I think it makes sense. Of course, they don't need to use this exact shape, but you get the idea. It's more the thought that counts here. Like, just look at this. This looks more like a ship to me. Or maybe if you want, you can make it go this way instead. So just something to make me feel like this is an actual ship that can sail and not just a boat, you know? So here's what that would look like if placed at the rear. Maybe that's even a better location for it. So again, you can experiment with this if you have both sets and you want to combine them together. Or maybe you could brick build something. I know a lot of the LEGO Creator pirate ships, they have brick built sails and they look okay. They look alright, actually. So perhaps you could do something along that route. Again, this is sold separately, it's not included with this set. It's just an interesting thought experiment to see what this thing would look like. If you give it a bit more sail, if you give it a bit more aura, I think we'll have a very beneficial result. I suppose I should mention by now that the ship does have an interior, although it's not very large and there's no interior in the rear half, which is dominated entirely by the mechanism. But at the front, you can either lift this off or just remove it entirely, like this, to gain access to the interior, where you have finally two seats side by side. One of them has a steering wheel, which doesn't make that much sense. I'm guessing they really ran out of budget if they're putting that there. And the other one has this kind of flight control type of system. You could put two minifigures in there, and here's what that would look like looking from the top. And here's what that would look like looking from the window at the front. You might want to lift this up to have a better look so you can barely see them in there. Yeah, it is a nice look when you can see it. Yeah, it is convincing. I do like the fact they're sitting side by side instead of one after the other. But other than these two minifigures, you don't have space here to add anything else. I really wish we had space for, like, let's say 4 minifigures, or just a place where they can stand, not necessarily sit, just so we can replicate some of the scenes from the TV show, especially the earlier seasons where you had like a whole hallway in the bounty where you could go from one side to the other. The confrontation with Garmadon and all that fun stuff. And here it's just like a cockpit where two people can sit and there's barely any space behind them. So it's a bit of a miss, although I'm not going to complain too much about that because I think for a set like this, the exterior is much more important than the interior. This is nice, but if it was totally not there and they improved other parts of the set, like if they took this away but gave us a sail, I think I would be happier with that personally. So you can let me know in the comments what you think about that. And in terms of the dropship mechanism, here it is one more time. Well, when a ship is landing on the car, it's going to be like this, and then you push this to lock it in place, and then you can also fly. And don't do this from a very big height, but like from a small height like this, just like a few millimeters above the ground, you can let go and basically drop the car into position or truck. So that's pretty fun to do, and it reminds me of the Black Swan Renegade from last year. So again, you lift it up slightly, you pull and you drop it and it bounces a little bit because of the wheels. That's fun to do. Maybe a little bit more height, just to make it a bit more dramatic. Yeah, that's fun. Lots of fun to play with, and again, I love this mechanism, so that's a lot of fun. You can also do this and like lift off of it if you know what you're doing. I'm not sure if that's canon. Like in the show, I don't know if the ship is going to carry this big car truck with it. What's more likely the case is that the thing travels on land, and when they need to escape the monsters or whatever, they're going to cut loose and go and leave this behind. And just for the sake of completeness, can you have the car and ship but without the motorbike? Well, yes you can, but it doesn't look too good. It looks like there's something here that's missing. I suppose that you might be able to get used to this look, and you might argue that without the motorcycle, here you have better visibility as to the stuff that's immediately below you. So that's an okay look right there, and you still have the steering. So you could do that if you need the motorcycle on a separate mission. But I'm not sure if this is going to be canon to the show either. So just some final details before I wrap up. I like the nice part usage right here of the bucket pieces used for the headlights. There's lots of other interesting part uses throughout the build. Lots of swords everywhere that the minifigures can actually take and use, like the one here that I gave to Nya. Swords that are larger size that you can give to your mechs if you have any Ninjago mechs. This piece right here in gold and red is actually the same exact piece, so that was interesting to see. The wheels and tires are quite large, larger than a minifigure, and I did that comparison at the start of the video, but just never fails to surprise me. Yeah, it's just so big. And just a brief comparison between this set and the one from 2019, and there are people who have both sets in hand and are able to do a better comparison because they're comparing the features and the sets both on site. Now, I do not have the older Land Bounty and probably never will due to its very high price on the aftermarket, and when this was revealed, the price did not go down significantly because a lot of people feel that was the better model. Well, it did have more minifigures, that's for sure. It had the sails, which this one does not have. The wheels had those nice wheel covers. They're the same style wheels and same size, but just the wheel covers made that set look a bit more premium, in my opinion. That one had the double steering, so you have both of the wheels turning at different radii. That was definitely very interesting. We still had 3 vehicles in the old one. Same thing with the new one, although the way the vehicles were split up was done differently at the time. I actually prefer the dropship mechanism that this one has. That's a point in favor of the newer model. And I do think that the newer model overall has nicer curves, less exposed studs overall, and a bit more of the gold color in the ship that we did not have, or we had less of in the original Land Bounty. So there are some good things about this model. I think that if you get a few more minifigures, or if you have some minifigures that are part of your collection, and maybe you get those wheel covers and you add a sail, then this would become a much better product. You have to spend maybe a little bit of money to do that, but I'm not going to complain too much about that. I just wish they gave us a sail and a few more dragon minifigures if they're not going to give us a larger number of minifigures. Only should have included Kai, the red ninja with this big red vehicle. Also, the older model had these shuriken that can rotate, and essentially if they had that here, it would have been nice. I don't think it's absolutely essential for them to have added that, but it would have been nice to have that just as a reminder of what we used to have with these types of set, and I think that's something to easily add here and remove it. So if you don't want the shuriken, you can easily remove them. So that is another thing that I would have liked to see from the newer Land Bounty. In terms of the building experience without the instructions, I found it to be a very enjoyable build. I enjoyed putting almost every single bag, like from start to finish. There were very few frustrating parts, and mostly they were due to the Lego Technic. So some of this Lego Technic stuff is not easy to figure out. It will require some attention, it will require some patience, and yeah, you might not get stuff right the first time. I think the most challenging part of the build is at the end with this mechanism right here, but the result is worth it. I'd say if you have not built something like this without the instructions, you will have a hard time. You will have to experiment, you'll have to do and undo things many times. And even me, having kept this channel running for 3 years, building all sorts of things without the instructions, I found this to be quite challenging, in fact. But it is doable. If you try it a few times, some trial and error, and some lucky guesses will help you build this set properly, and you just have to understand the mechanism and what it does. So I did know that you pull and push on this thing to make stuff happen. If you compare different pictures of the set on the box, as well as the 3D view, you can understand that, oh, we're not just having it in this form, but also in this form. So just spinning the set around on its own is not enough. You should see various states of the set. Basically this versus this, and you see, okay, I need to build it such that both of these are possible. And you might have noticed in the speed build, as I was building this, I was always activating the mechanism to make sure that it was still working. I was always testing my progress, making sure that whatever I'm doing is correct. So I highly recommend doing that if you're going to be building anything without the instructions. As for price and value, this is a set that costs 120 euros, 130 US dollars, or 180 Canadian dollars, 180. And I do think the price, just looking at the amount of stuff here, is okay. I thought this was severely overpriced when I just looked at it, especially when comparing to the previous version of the Land Bounty, but we do have to remember that one was released in 2019 before all the crazy inflation. So with that in mind, the set here is not that bad, and after having built it myself, I kind of feel a bit more of the value. There is a lot of stuff here. When you lift this up, it's hefty. You feel the value and the amount of plastic here. So there is something here. I just think that they should have stretched the budget a bit more, maybe sacrifice some things like the interior of the ship right here to give us a sail. Or I'd say trade one of the ninja, like you could have traded Zane for Kai. I think Kai would have made more sense to add him in this particular set. But yeah, I just wish they gave us like the big sail, because that's a big part of the visual impact of the set. Again, this is from the Going Merry pirate ship of the One Piece theme. Like if this was there, of course in the right color and size and everything, I think it would have added so much to the visual presence of this set. And this is not a material that's very expensive. It's not gold or silver. It's just vinyl. Of course I prefer cloth, but if they don't do cloth, they can do at least vinyl. Like you can get stuff from Amazon online with this material very, very cheaply. So I was hoping that they would do something like that for this set, but unfortunately they did not. So yeah, it's a set that has lots of interesting features, has this exclusive minifigure, and I hope we'll get him in a magazine or a polybag or something in the near future so that you don't have to spend all this money just to get this one figure, because that does not make sense to me. Mechanism is nice. I will always appreciate this mechanism and the effort that went into designing it. For the motorcycle, I do like the idea. I think the execution could have been improved, but the idea, I really like it a lot. When I saw this for the very first time, I was like, wow, that's amazing. I need to get this set. And that motivated me to buy the set and build this set without the instructions. It's just cool to me to have these 3 vehicles. But again, the price is a bit higher than what I would like to have seen given the stuff that we get in the set and compared with other sets. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Land Bounty for 2026. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe for more amazing videos coming your way very soon.